All right, what's going on, everyone? Dr. Todd here from MoveNow. I'm here with one of our members who is kind of like, if you think about like a doomsday prepper, he's not a doomsday prepper. He's a chiropractic success prepper because he's not even graduated from school yet. And he came across our stuff, joined MoveNow, didn't even really have to think twice. Was just like, okay, I'm doing this. This is Stephen Gage. He is the president of the Gonstead Club and this is at Life East, correct?
Down in Marietta, Life University.
Yep.
Life East, yeah.
Yep, Life East out in Georgia. Out in Georgia. Okay, so, and Stephen Gage, he came out here to our impact event back last week. At the time we're filming this right now, today is the 23rd. So our impact event was 16-17. And, I wanted to make this video as an interview so we could also reach out to our members, who the majority of our members are seasoned chiropractors that have practiced for several years. We have a handful that are newer graduates, and you and only another guy right now are students, and which is really making us think that we need to be catering to more students, because I think you got a ton out of this event. I know you've already dove into our information. You've been studying this. So with that said, let's just talk a little bit about that. Tell me a little bit about your kind of story in chiropractic briefly, how you came across us, and then why you decided to go the route of joining MoveNow.
Yeah, sure. So, whenever I first started with chiropractic school, my first, ambition, with talking with the right people was to get involved and get involved early. We all know, I think all of us know that chiropractic school doesn't really prepare you to be a great chiropractor. It's just meant to give you your board exams. And so I kind of knew early on, just from being surrounded by the right people, that if you want to be the best chiropractor you can be, you got to get and plug yourself in with the right people, with the right clubs, go to seminars, workshops, and just continually be bettering yourself. So that was kind of my intent whenever I came to school, was I was just going to plug in and get involved in as much stuff as I could early on. And I did that. And I think now I'm going into my third year of school. That's kind of whenever I stumbled upon your stuff, Dr. Todd. If you see my hat, I got plugged in with the Gonstead Club pretty early on, and I was involved with the Gonstead technique. And I think what drew me and what really got me interested in what you're doing, Dr. Todd, with MoveNow was, what I loved about the Gonstead technique was the specificity of it. Was actually like really getting down to the root cause of actually what the problem was, which is what I want to do as a chiropractor, was get to the root cause, right? And whenever I saw your stuff, Dr. Todd, I began to see that it wasn't just, there's so much more than just specific chiropractic, but it was also implementing specific movement dysfunctions and specific corrective care. And that really drew my eye, because, you're a fool if you don't realize the importance of posture, movement, biomechanics, and how it relates into chiropractic and the adjustment. And so I was like, wow, this stuff makes so much sense to me. So you're using the specificity of, say, with specific chiropractic care and applying that with the movement and posture aspect.
Yeah, sure.
It blew me away.
That's a great story and a great purpose as far as how you transition into this. A key thing that I just want to point out for everyone in the audience watching this, whether it's a chiropractor watching this, whether it's a hardcore strict Gonstead chiropractor watching this, because who knows who this video reaches, or it's a student who's watching it. But let's just talk about primarily on the doctor end. I consider myself a principled chiropractor. Okay. I teach our patients about subluxation. I firmly understand and believe that your nervous system controls everything in the body. So that's not something I abandoned to then learn about posture and movement, but I feel like posture and movement reinforces that even more. And so something that you said that I picked up in your words, because words are really powerful. So I want to pick this up and clarify it so that everyone understands, I think, what you meant. You said something like, hey, I felt like I'd be a fool to not appreciate posture and movement. Or maybe you said like, you'd be a fool if you didn't do this. And really, I think what you meant by that, because I've gotten to know you pretty well, and I know that you have just awesome intentions, is that chiropractors need to, I feel like, appreciate and understand how all this stuff works. Some chiropractors don't want to do it all themselves. They don't, right? They say, all I want to do is adjust. I would say that's fine, but you still need to understand where these things fit in. And then you'll need to find other practitioners that have mastered this stuff so that you can drive your patient to the appropriate places so they can get complete care. Because here's what I don't think is okay. I don't think it's okay for chiropractors who say, I'm principled and I only want to adjust, but I'm going to like rewrite the facts and pretend that functional movement and posture doesn't matter because I don't want to do it. I'm going to say it doesn't matter. And those that do it are wasting their time. They're misled. If they only knew how to adjust better, then they would get those results. And that just is patently false. And I'm saying that from being around the block quite a bit. So it's kind of like a little bit of my own testimonial to that statement, is that I practiced close to 18 years, was hardcore into Gonstead myself, was the president of Gonstead Club at my school, went to 22 Gonstead seminars before I graduated school, okay, which was like flying literally every month, through school. Like I spent thousands of dollars going to these seminars, was glad I did. But I had my blinders on for my first 8 years in practice. I did adjustment only. I got really good at it. I think I have great technique. I think I know how to find a subluxation. I think I know how to adjust. I think I can adjust some of the hardest patients out there. So I would put my adjusting skill next to pretty much anyone else out there. Not saying that to pat myself on the back, but saying that to reiterate my point is that I don't think I was coming up short on the adjusting end, but there's things that the adjustment doesn't do. And what it doesn't do predictably, there's always that outlier. What it doesn't do predictably is change alignment, global alignment of someone's spine to the degree that you can when you understand coupling patterns, techniques like chiropractic biophysics, things like postural corrective exercises. That's where you get these massive changes. And if you believe, and if you understand, I should say, because it's not a belief, if you understand how a posture affects spinal cord biomechanics and affects nerve root tension, it's more than just a segmental problem. The segment is where it starts, but the segment weakens regions of the spine. It causes the posture to shift and distort. It weakens regions of the spine. And if you're not okay with the spine degenerating and breaking down at an accelerated rate, if you're not okay with that, if you don't want that for your spine, your parents, your family, your patient's spine, if you don't want that, you have to be addressing more, or you have to be working with other practitioners that do address more. And I don't think it is honest to continue to perpetuate the lie to the patient to say that if I adjust you, it's going to fix all of this stuff, and don't worry about exercise, and don't worry about, your big, huge forward head posture, because those are things that saddens me when I go to these chiropractic seminars and I see these old timers that are so great in their technique and they are incapacitated themselves as far as how they move, because they have a big thoracic hyperkyphosis because they were, serving patients for so many years, adjusting people bent over. They never exercised themselves. They never put any time or emphasis into fixing their own posture. And so a truth is, when your posture is like this, your spinal cord's under tension. And that's not something that us as chiropractors write about. That's something that the neurosurgeons write about. And they have this published, and they show a hyperkyphosis leads to a decreased life expectancy. That's Cato in the Rancho Bernardo study of community dwelling individuals, which is a nice way of saying people in old age homes. They measured the head to wall distance. The further the head came off the wall, the lower their life expectancy was. It meant abnormal sagittal balance, right? So I know that was a long rant, but the rant is really just to, I think, set the record straight that some doctors, like you, for example, a student, soon to be licensed chiropractor, you want to learn that stuff and take it on yourself, which is a admirable thing, because it's more work. It's definitely more work. Okay. And it's more work. And I would argue it is more reward. Okay. It is more satisfying having the skill set, and the goal that we try to create and the system that we put together is not so that you spend time teaching people exercises all day long. It's so that you do what you do as a chiropractor. You adjust, you have the intellect to understand all the moving parts. So you are case manager, right? You're managing their case very thoroughly. And then you have a clinic that has departments in it, and you're able to direct where the patient goes versus rolling the dice, sending the person out into the world to a physical therapist, to a personal trainer, to whoever you're going to send them to, keeping your fingers crossed that they're going to do the right thing. They're not going to undo anything that you did as a chiropractor, and that they're not going to badmouth you, and that they're not going to make that patient think, oh, the adjustment actually wasn't important and it didn't do anything. I just needed to learn how to do this glute activation exercise, and that's what actually fixed me. Stupid chiropractor. I shouldn't have wasted my time over there. I should have just gone over here and learned how to do this exercise. And the problem is the patient loses in that scenario because it's segment, posture, movement. All three of those have to be addressed. And unless you want to build a network, which I think is possible, other doctors like you, like me, like our other doctors that are part of this group, they want to have the oversight, and they want to do that in their clinic. And that sets themselves very much apart from other chiropractors, from other practitioners. It puts you on the map in your community. People seek you out for this reason. And yes, there's more moving parts, but there's systems to make it flow beautifully. That's what you are starting to learn as far as going through the information and you saw in person. I'll throw it back to you because I know I'm talking way too much. So speak to some of those points that I just threw out. I know there was a lot.
Sure, 100%. And so I'll make a few points. Well, you said, I think the first thing that you're saying there at the end was, I think a lot of chiropractors, we all understand that movement is so important. You know, I mean, if we look at how we live our own lifestyles, we understand the importance of exercise and functional movement, just overall rehab and posture that we want to work on for ourselves because we know it's important. And whenever we're learning technique, we're always talking about, you know, like onset work, making sure we have proper posture and mechanics because we know the detrimental effects are going to happen long term. And so to me, I think what the barrier is then, well, how do we instruct this to our patients while us the doctors keeping the main thing, which is the adjustment in chiropractic, while also still implementing some of these other factors that we know is going to be more beneficial for the patient. And that's what you're doing with MoveNow is you've systematized everything. So you have the postural correction, you have the movement, the exercise department that's all incorporated in the same facility. So where you can be the chiropractor and then everything else can still be run under the same roof. And the patient can tell the difference because they can tell that everything is so systemized and organized and they know that they're getting better care. And other to your point that you said too, as I started doing more research as well and understanding the role of posture and spinal degeneration. And again, we kind of already all understand this kind of a stuff is, you know, you look at like, what's the type of care that the chiropractic care that you want yourself or the type of care that you want to give to your family. Right. You know, I have a background in exercise physiology, so I often write exercise programs for some of my friends and family members. And whenever I'm watching them do exercise, it's important that we know that they have correct form. You know, we know that if they have posture issues, we're helping them work through that and do stuff. And so I always asked, because I'm also very principled in my care. And for a while in my early school, that's all I cared about was the adjustment. I think that's so important. But I began to ask, well, how can I also educate my patients with that stuff? Because I know how important it is. And so I just think the compilation of all that within the program is so important.
Cool. Well said. So here's what I'll pull up. Prior to us jumping on this, I was showing you some of the footage that we did from this last weekend at Impact that you were out here. You came out to our clinic in Meridian, Idaho. We had a bunch of instructors come out. We had, a tight group. I think we had maybe, 12, 13 people or something total out here, which sometimes these events, we get close to 30. This one I kept smaller purposely, and I anticipated to be smaller because of all the COVID stuff going on. So some footage that I'll just share here is some of the stuff we covered, and then maybe we can reminisce a bit so that we can talk to others that are watching this or looking at this that might want to, explore coming out to an event. Our next one's going to be in February. So I have this screen pulled up here, and you can see my screen with this video on it, right?
Yep, I can see it.
Okay, so this first thing, however, the way we organize our exercises pretty much coincide with that as much as possible. So this is where we went through and we talked about the different rules of functional movement, and we broke down the top 10, I believe, dysfunctions, right?
Yep.
And so we went through this, okay. And so we then started talking about these different common things that we see. Any comments on this?
Well, I think it was really cool going through the basic 10 dysfunctions. And I remember one thing you had said too is how well that makes just for basic Facebook, or just social media content you can make.
Oh yeah.
And I thought that was so cool going through the 10 dysfunctions and how really like how easy it is to educate your patients and make content with that kind of stuff. It was really cool to learn that.
Totally. And that actually plays into a important point that I think is a good takeaway. I remember Dr. Cronk from Smart Injury Doctors, he reiterated this, even though I've worked with him for some time now. Something snapped in how I said this, and he was like, "Oh, I love how that's put together." What I talked about, if you remember, I talked about how in big pharma and in medicine, right? Like medical doctors have big pharma marketing for them. And so the public already says, hey, I'm coming in asking for this pill because I already accept I need this pill to get this symptom to go away. So people are already educated / brainwashed into thinking that that's what they need to do. And how do we borrow from that, seeing how successful that is in this evil platform of sick care to this noble platform of what we do, of what we do as chiropractors? And the simple bridge is what?
Exercise.
That's right. It's exercise and movement, because people get that. People understand the importance of needing to move, and they're already sold on we should be exercising. Even though a lot of people don't exercise, they know they should. So like they can envision a better version of themselves exercising. They want to be there. So if we can start with movement and exercise and work our way backwards to posture and work our way backwards to segment, we basically explain the role of chiropractic with a bridge of what people already are sold on, which is the need to exercise, right? And so that's something that we talked about. Let's see what the second video is here. You're saying it's personality dependent because you're smiling, a nice guy. Okay, so we talk about some of the communication aspects of this. Let's see, I think this is where we start getting into how we do a day 2 and how we explain things to a patient. Okay, so that was something too, if you recall day 2, remember a key thing that we teach in our system is how to make this not feel like a sales process to a patient as far as getting them on board with care, right?
Right.
And so on day 2, if you remember, what we draw out is what?
Well, so essentially you're drawing out, are you talking about with the financial or more of the care plan itself?
It's on day 2 where we run towards the danger and we address time and money prior to building out all the recommendations, prior to sitting down with the patient on day 3. So day 3 feels very comfortable because day 2, we're asking the patient, you can either do this or this, which one would you like? And they say, oh yeah, I want to get this corrected. Right. And then we map that out for them and we basically give them ranges. This is a range of what your initial investment may be. This is the time commitment, right? Mm-hmm. Right. All right.
Right. It's giving them what I love about it was like, it's giving them the option about whether you just want acute care, whether you're here for pain, which is kind of the mindset of how most people come into the clinic, is that they just want to get out of their pain or whatever issue they're struggling with, or we can actually get through more of a corrective care process, get to the root cause of the problem and actually make some change for the long term. And so the way you address that, it's kind of like you're getting them to buy into the idea of like a longer committed corrective care process, which already changes their way of thinking. And so while also building up the expectations for what the care is actually going to look like.
Totally. Yep. Cool. Yeah. You know what? It makes me happy, like a little tear when I'm talking to you, because it's like it's not common. It's not common for me to be able to connect with someone who's still in chiropractic school, who is jumping into this stuff and so driven to go through it. So, I mean, I have a world of respect for you, the fact that you're doing this at the stage that you're at. And I think this is such a powerful thing for our chiropractors to see who are busy in practice. It might motivate and inspire them to say, okay, we got this guy that's in school. Now, granted, in school, I get it. This is your 1,000% focus in school, is prepping for this. It's harder to do this when you are a graduated chiropractor. So It is so smart to do it at this point. It's just a lot of times people don't see the need or the importance of this until they've gone in practice several years and seen what doesn't work and kind of seen where they want to go with things, and then trying to learn and study this simultaneously while having a full week load of patients makes it a little more challenging. But on the same note, you also have busy stuff you do in class. I mean, you're in school, so you're training simultaneously while you're completing all your classwork and prepping for boards and doing all of that. So I guess on both ends, there's busyness that you have, right?
Sure. I mean, yeah, just like, I mean, we know like time can be an excuse for a lot of our patients too, saying they don't have the time to commit to care and things. But I mean, just look at the room though. We got a room full of other chiropractors that are hungry, that are learning, that are already implementing changes into the clinic.
Yeah, and this here is Dr. Ryan Goodman out from Florida. He's awesome. He came out to teach a lot of different soft tissue pieces and do some more technique, because I know that is what, even though so much of what we teach, yes, there's a clinical aspect, especially like in the movement assessment and prescribing exercises and protocols, but the part that MoveNow teaches that other groups just have never put together is the systems, and then marries it into principled chiropractic, right? And so, yeah, we go through this. He's doing some flossing and some exercise with Dr. Zach that has a post-recovery from a Achilles tendon rupture. And then how about this? Talk about this, because this is the first time a lot of people saw this, including you, was this device right here. Do you remember that?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the Protech. Never seen an instrument or a machine like this before. It was almost incorporating like decompression with traction. It's a very, very interesting machine for sure. And it was really cool seeing Dr. Rowe come out and instruct us on it. And what was really interesting was seeing him actually incorporate a lot of like movement into while they're actually getting the decompression. That was really interesting. You see him doing some movement stuff there. And just to see like the results that he's getting in his clinic with it was really awesome to see. And now obviously you guys as well have one and are starting to implement things with it. So it was really interesting to see, you know?
Yeah, no, for sure. Yeah. And that's something called Protech Spine. This is probably just a bunch of footage where we should have turned the camera off. Okay. Yeah. Great. And yeah, so Dr. Rowe came out, and this is a device. He hooked me up with the North American distributors of this. I talked to him. I like the concept. It's doing decompression in the spine, but you can add passive range of motion while they're in it. And we've seen some really awesome results with being able to take someone that's super, super acute that would normally not be able to really do a whole lot with an adjustment, do this then be able to adjust them a lot more successfully, and then get a quicker and better outcome for them. So especially with these severe disc issues and radiculopathies.
Yeah.
All right, then fast forward over here. We had our day 2. We started going through systems. Remember this? We have the spreadsheet, this flow sheet we're going through, and there's you right there, front and center. That's probably you and like all your classes out in chiropractic school, right? They're like, come on, Steve.
Wish I could say that.
No. All right, so we're going through day 1 through day 5. And as you've probably learned, just going through our material, you can tell I like flow sheets. I like flow charts. I like that as the thought process of following along, right?
Yep.
All right. Yep. Not too much to say about that. Okay. And then we had Dr. Cronk came out from Florida, Smart Injury Doctors. First time I met him in person. Didn't realize he was 6'4". That was surprising. But tall guy.
Large group that they are missing major findings with their MRIs, and all attorneys will tell me, oh, geez, then on cases where we don't have a positive disc herniation, this would be a great test. It's a great place to start.
And so went through, answered questions, and we went for about an hour and a half. Our next event, we're going to plan on having Dr. Cronk out again in February. Probably do about a 4-hour portion for him. So our next event we're planning on doing, I'd like to do a 4-day event. I'm not totally committed to that yet, but I'm about 99% there. So like a 4-day event would be we'd probably start, I mean, either Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, or maybe even start Wednesday afternoon and just do like the second half of a week, you know? So Wednesday, half day, Thursday, all day, Friday, all day, Saturday, all day, Sunday morning. And then everyone can fly back Sunday, like early afternoon.
Yeah, that'd be so awesome. I mean, you saw just how information packed this last event was, and there's so much more that you could have gotten into.
For sure.
Yeah.
And then we got Dr. Perry Barnhill from Fearless Chiropractor. So he's our compliance guy. He's got every certification under the sun as far as all this alphabet soup next to his name. You can't really see it in this light here, but he talks.
And these things are really, really important these days. You don't have this stuff the way it should be, you put yourself at a significant increased risk of a lot of things you quite frankly don't want to have to deal with. So, I mean, I'm not going to go over that.
And so anyway, Dr. Perry Barnhill talking about this stuff. So what were your takeaways with that? Because it's probably your first time really being exposed to a whole lot of that end of things on the compliance end.
Sure. And you could argue that was like a little bit ahead of my time, kind of learning this as a student, I'm sure. But I mean, honestly, it goes hand in hand, because I think the earlier you can learn a lot of the compliance and things, the better. And I even think like stuff for like a lot of docs that are out there learning so much more about how they can become more compliant, how they can really maximize their codes and services in office, because there's just so much to learn and so much that's changing, right? Because he was showing just the changes that were made for this upcoming year with a lot of the time codes that are coming out and things of that nature. So I think, and I know he does monthly trainings, I believe, right, for a lot of practices. Just to constantly be pointing, to teach the team and teach the docs and updated compliance stuff, and just making sure that they're important, that they're on par with everything. And so it kind of like alerted me the importance of making sure that your compliance is on point, and that you're maximizing everything you can.
For sure. And you know what? This last part too, this is how we opened. I forgot to even put this in here. I just pulled this off of Zoom. If you remember, it took us a while to get this running. Dr. Fred from Elite Coaching.
Fred.
He's a good friend of mine. He taught me a lot of stuff back in 2012. We've been friends ever since. And he teaches chiropractors. Like that still frame of Dr. Fred puckering up. Let's see.
Fix it. So, why the rest of the profession doesn't get that, I don't really know. But you guys are entering in a system that is truly the most powerful system, spinal correction, strengthening people from head to toe, man. You can change your life. And the purpose of this weekend is to learn the clinical part, correct? Yeah. Is that correct? Yeah. So
and then we flipped it around and shared his screen, and basically
this just doesn't make sense. I'm rebuilding here.
And so, he went through a lot of cool communication gems, and he was on a Zoom meeting. So he was back home. We had this on a big screen. He could see the audience. We could participate. It was cool. We could do this through that technology and still have Fred be able to participate with us there. And so that's Dr. Fred. And so, anyway, and then we wrapped it up, and we had food on every break because I didn't want anyone to leave because we had so much good stuff to go. So we made sure we brought food in, we catered food so we could just keep cranking through all the content. And that was the weekend. And there we go. Cool. So closing, I guess, thoughts, because on this that we went through here, I think this suffices to be able to help get a message across to students, to seasoned chiropractors, to brand new chiropractors. I think everything is encompassed in this. And so I hope the audience out there that's watching this right now, I hope this piques your interest. I hope this resonates with you. I hope that you understand that I didn't have everything figured out myself. And I really put these systems together for our own clinic initially, because this is a vision I had for myself and my clinic. And then we were asked if we'd be willing to share this. We had doctors flying into our clinic to shadow and watch us go through. And it became apparent very quickly, there was no way they were going to grasp all these moving pieces without us changing gears and saying, now it's time for us to put this into lessons and to help box this and teach it to other doctors. And now we've done that. And we have over 160 clinics that have access to this information, that have implemented it to varying degrees. And it's so cool to see this same level of success and satisfaction that we see in practice with other doctors. So your closing thoughts to everyone who's watching this, what would you say?
Yeah, my closing thoughts, I think a lot of times we can see other clinics or see someone like you, Dr. Todd, implementing this, and you're like, oh, that's great that he figured out and that he's doing it, but I just don't know if I can do that in my clinic or my practice. Or maybe you already have a good thing going, you don't want to implement it. Or maybe you think that you just don't have the time or the resources to be able to start to change things, or overcoming some of the hurdles like hiring a new team or being able to train your team, because we know that some people don't like change. But I think all that stuff, like if you can find a way to get past that resistance and to know that you can implement that you can actually make this a part of your clinic and to get even greater results than what you're already getting right now in your office, regardless of what technique you're doing or regardless of what other things you might be doing in your practice, I think you can really implement a lot of the core things that Dr. Todd teaches in your clinic. And You know, if you're a student too, I encourage you just to get after it. Get after it, as Jocko Willing says, right?
There you go.
And just start learning this stuff, because school flies by. I can't even imagine how fast I'm going on my 3rd year, right? So it's insane how fast this program goes by. And then once you're out in practice, time goes by faster. So when's the right time to do it? Yesterday was the right time to do it. So I would just say, get involved, plug, always be a sponge, and learn, and then actually just start taking action on some of the stuff that you're learning. And I believe you'll be shocked at the progress that you'll make, and the future is just unlimited, you know?
Cool. Awesome. And then last thing, if there's doctors or students that want to reach out to you specifically to ask you questions, how do they get a hold of you?
You can get a hold of me. You can email me, stevegage@gmail.com. I know it's kind of complicated with 2 G's in there. You can also follow me on Instagram as well, Steve G Gage, @SteveGGage. I'm always a resource for anyone who wants to get out of me. I also have a YouTube channel as well. You can always connect and see videos on there. My story with that, whenever I first came into school, I started making YouTube videos to kind of document this process of school and kind of just share information about chiropractic school, chiropractic, and my journey to become a chiropractor and moving forward. So you can look me up there, just Steven Gage on YouTube. Get connected with me anyway. I'm always here to be a resource for any student or doctor. Always, if you want to get in touch, just reach out to me.
Cool, man. I'm super impressed with you, and you have such a bright future in front of you. I am privileged that you sought us out and that we're working together. And so I thank you for being who you are, taking the time today to go through this. And I hope that our audience, I hope that this hits something with them, resonates with them, and helps them get closer to reaching that vision that they're looking for.
Absolutely. Thank you, Dr. Carr, for having me.
So cool. All right. Over and out.